Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Consciousness Road Trip podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Watt, and again we're joined by a special guest while we take a deep dive into the tools of access consciousness while we explore this amazing planet that we live on. So welcome everyone. You're here again on Consciousness Road Trip podcast, and I'm so excited. I'm in the home of my very amazing, brilliant friend, co-worker, colleague, co-creator, Miss Lauren Marie.
Hello, Sarah.
And I love this because, it's Consciousness Road Trip, and I've laughed about this on the last few episodes because my whole idea with this podcast was to take it on the road as I travel the world, and that's why it was a road trip.
Which is a good idea before coronavirus.
And I haven't been on the road now for weeks, but I did. I got in my car and I drove to your house.
And you actually asked me to be on your podcast when we were together in Vienna. That was just before COVID.
See?
So we traveled all the way home to do this.
It's consciousness. I road trip down the road. It's all good.
Yeah, I love it.
So, always before these podcasts, I'm like, do we come up with a theme or do we just start? But for this one, it was definitely this thing that's been up in my world a lot lately about, what is creating your life? What does that look like? And I know for us, both of us work a lot with access consciousness. We have access consciousness businesses. We use the tools. We are the tools. And how do you, let me just ask you, how do you create your life? What is that for you? What is creating your life for you?
Wow. So as you know, we have 2 kids and live down the street from you in Sunshine Coast, and our lives are very busy all the time, mostly because of me. I think the other 3 would just
happily be coasty, Sunshine Coasters,
and surf,
kicking back,
But I've got a very busy job, as do you, And so for me, it's not really a question of separating work and play and kid time, and I've tried to do that. It doesn't work so well. I've tried lots of different things with that, just put it in all together and see what happens, and then nothing gets done, or the kids are totally neglected, or the work is totally neglected. And then I've tried being really structured with this is work time, and this is kid time, and this is body, exercise time, and, and then that's makes you crazy too. So for me, when you say creating your life, it's got to be really just every 10 seconds, every day, looking at it and being willing to change, really dynamically on a dime when it's not working.
Cool.
Yeah. And you don't ever get it right.
Yeah. And that's kind of part of the fun too, in a way, where I've found where the space of giving up, getting it right is the space where the creation begins, in a way. It's this place where if you're willing to fuck it up and get it wrong, you can have so much more fun and freedom with everything as well. Because I don't have 2 kids, so I don't have that factor in my life. So, it's it is different, but it's also this thing of it can be applied everywhere. It doesn't matter if you're super busy or you're not super busy. That thing of it not needing to look or be a certain way. And for every day, it could turn up totally differently. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I guess when you say, so it's create is the first part of that. Create your life. A lot of people think that they just, it happens to you, or we're talking about someone today who functions in our business like an employee.
Yeah.
And it's a very different energy than being a leader. She just, and it's not right or wronger, but it's a different way of creating is to show up to a job and be given a list of things versus going to a job and going, what should I create today? And having a blank slate for me is more fun. I would make a really bad employee because I would never probably do what I was asked to do.
Well, you probably would. That I could see you doing everything you were asked to do by morning tea.
Yeah.
Going, having a cup of coffee and going, okay, now it's time for Lauren to create. Yeah. And also, like you said, it's not about it being right or wrong or either one, but really looking at what that looks like for for you and how that works. Like, I remember when I started working with Access and I was really like, well, where's my, like, it was that thing, where's my job description? Can someone and my brother, Brendan Watt, was like, Sarah, you need to create your role. You need to create what you want to contribute to the company and to the businesses and to all the different projects you're working on based on what you're aware of. And I was like, what?
You know, it was really cool because I remember when you changed your job totally, and I remember you saying, you know, everything I'm doing now is because that's what I was told that I was good at.
Yes.
And I got hired for all the things that everyone thinks that I'm good at, and I am good at it.
Yes.
But I don't want to do these things.
Yeah.
And you're like, just change your whole job. And I was like, wait a second? You can do that? How did she get away with that?
I'm glad you saw it that way, because from where I was sitting, I'm like, okay, this is it. I basically am about to lose all my jobs because I'm not like, because it was this thing of people would be like, oh, you're really good at that. You're really good at that. So I would just keep doing that. And But I would get to a point where I'm like, I'm so bored.
But it was brilliant, and I don't know how you got away with it, but like that, I mean, I do, because what you created is so much greater than what you were doing before.
Yeah.
But there must have been a moment where you were like,
I was like, rock roll.
This could be the end of the job.
Yeah. So let's look then at that tool quickly as well. And if you guys are listening to this, I do mention it in all of my podcasts. If you've just stumbled across this somewhere, we do use the tools of Access Consciousness. What we're talking about is Access Consciousness. And please, if you don't know what that is, you can reach out to me or Lauren. But also accessconsciousness.com is a great place to start. So the other thing that came up then was the willingness to lose everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, how, like, have you got anything on that? Like anything that, because, you know, for you, you're married, you've got children, you've got a business, like how do you create also, like, what is the willingness to lose anything? Because I think people hear it and they're like, what, you mean that I need to lose everything? But it's such a different energy between the willingness. I think it's that word.
I think you can't get to there until you have a really high trust in you.
Thank you. Yes.
And a really strong belief that like the universe has your back, consciousness has your back, whatever you believe in that's like, you know, out there, sort of in you, out there.
Yeah.
It's not out to get you.
Cool.
And that even if you lose it all, it's like you'll still have you and you can create again.
Cool. I think I know other people have said it that way, but that is so, like, that's succinct. That's so conducive with for me, what being willing to lose it is really all about. And I think until I had that trust in myself and knowing that no matter what I lost, I would always have me, that I was willing to be me. Like, it's like the more you're willing to lose everything, the more you have this freedom to show up as you.
Yeah. This is probably a bad way to do it, but I just had this conversation yesterday with Dylan because I was looking at something and I said, okay, the worst that can happen is I get fired. And he's like, why are you talking about? Like, I just need to go there for a second.
Yeah.
Like, I just need to go there and establish the worst thing that could happen from this. And then, okay, would I be okay? And I'm like, yeah, I would, you know, in certain things, it's like, you got to go there so you know, would I be able to handle that? Mm-hmm. And really look at it. Like, I mean, there's different things I've done in my life, like move across the world or, you know, sell my house, like leave a relationship. Like, I had to imagine that and what is the worst that could happen? Like, I've done a few times, like, sort of, like, not throw it all away, but like
start it again in
like
a way.
Completely, like like leave everything behind, move to another country, like all my friends, my business, my house, my stuff, my dogs, like everything, and start over. And I had to go through that in my mind, like, what's the worst that could happen here? And then I go, well, that's not that bad.
Yeah,
I could deal with it. I'm not gonna die.
Yeah.
And
it turned out great.
And then, you know, okay, I can choose it, and that gives you that space to actually create. And then you go, whee! And you go off creating. And it's like fun.
Yeah. And I think like where you go, like it's that indulging like we often think of as like being the good side of things, but also indulging in that, like and it's also that thing for me of like, well, you know, if I lost my job and, you know, they were like, no, you, whatever reason, no, you're out, you can't do this anymore, that I know if I have my own back, that's that, like, yeah, that's that point where there's nothing that can really deviate you from it or shake you from that place of like, yeah.
You've always got you, even if you have no one or nothing else.
Yeah.
And if you have the capacity to create, which we all do, and you acknowledge you have the capacity to create, then you don't really need anything else. You just create. You have nothing. You can create something.
Yeah. And even when you're willing to have that like level of vulnerability and rawness of having you, it's also a place like if you're not in a relationship or, you know, you don't, or that's changing or something, where if you have that level of like, of that space with yourself, you also start to almost like invite people into your life that are actually going to contribute to that energy, rather than like when you're on the opposite side and it's like, I need to fill my life with a good job and a relationship, and you tend to always bring people into your life that cut you down or that just create this place for you to show up as something that supports and creates for them. But when you have that place as well, the more and more I'm noticing, it feels like there's less people in my life, but in actual fact, the people I have and the people that are showing up are quality.
Yeah.
Like there's such a level of them being on the same page as me in a way.
And there's not a need there.
Yeah.
Which is really cool to function, to create your life beyond need, where I know like, when I first found out I was having twins and I didn't even have enough money to leave the country, you know, I just came to, you know, play around and I was like, 2 babies. I went like into a lot of need. Like, I mean, I also chose like, okay, I demanded of myself to really step up. But I wouldn't have said at that point I was willing to lose, you know, my job or anything, because I was like, I gotta like hold on to everything because I've got, you know,
support these
2
kids.
Yeah. And I think it's normal. But I also recognize like the contribution that was available, and I mean the generosity of so many people and the universe, and these kids are like actually a generative energy
hugely
creating, you know, for us as well. So it was like I got pretty quickly like I had to get over myself and be willing to receive, and that it wasn't all about me being the source for everyone. And like, I've got to work hard and support, you know, the family, which I did and I do, but it was also like, oh, like the joy that they add to my life and the ease that, you know, my husband adds to different, you know, areas of my life. It's not just all about me working hard and getting money. It's like, the universe actually is showing up with all these various ways to contribute. Yeah.
And then like what came up then when you were talking as well is like, what if like wherever you are in the world right now, when you hear this podcast, like what if nothing you'd ever chosen was wrong either? Like, because so often for me, I'll go into this place of like trying to fix something that I'd chosen in the past or try and analyze, you know, or that energy comes up again of need, for instance, and I'm like, oh, I'm doing it again. But rather than just going, oh, I'm doing it again, now I'm going to change it, like how often do we go to that place of, oh, I'm doing it again, now I need to figure out why, I'll remember when I did it last time, what did I do to change it then? Also, what came up then was like you were given the real like baptism of fire with looking at this stuff with how it worked out for you. But it could be the little things too, guys. Like if you're listening to this and this energy comes up where you find yourself like going into that place of needing anything, a job, a person, you know, even your pets, whatever that thing is that you fall on, like your crutch or whatever. Like, what if the minute you notice that energy is when you have the opportunity to change something as well, and not make yourself wrong, but look at like actually ask a question like, okay, I'm being needy again. If I wasn't being needy, what would I choose here? Yeah, and look at like what shows up. And you know, I love what you said about what's the worst that could happen, because that could be a big thing. Like you said, you indulged in the energy of losing your job and all this sort of stuff. But sometimes like what's the worst that could happen is fun to use on the really little things too. Like if I chose something different here, what's the worst that could happen? Like usually this energy comes up, or this choice, this problem, this thing presents itself, and this is where I would usually go. This is the path I would usually follow. What's the worst that could happen if I chose something different here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what have you not even considered that could occur that could be greater than anything you've expected or planned?
Yeah. And I think like it's so interesting with where the world is at the moment and how our lives have changed, how much the little things are so much more blindingly obvious to me right now. Whereas before, when I know most of the world of it has experienced a huge shift in activity of doing things, and now we have so much more space, which doesn't mean we're not still super busy, because I know we all are, but there seems to be such a different energy to things now, for now. And it's shown me, like, it's given me time basically to look at all those little things that I've known have niggled at me when before this stuff's come up in the world, but I've always brushed aside because I've been too busy. And now it's also that space too of like, if you were creating your life and, you know, we were never going back and this was the new future, what parts would you keep and what parts would you change, and where would you go from here?
And are you having to look at what you'd like to create? Because it's like, you can't really create your life unless you know what you'd like to have in it.
Yep.
What you'd like it to be like, what the energy is, you know, where would you like to live? And I always like Gary's way of doing this, with how he created Access, Gary Douglas, founder of Access Consciousness. When he was looking at creating his life, and he was like, well, he's like basically 3 or 4 things. He's like, I know I want to travel. I know I want to make a difference, you know, in people's lives.
Yep.
And I know my work needs to be different all the time. Like it can't be the same thing day in and day out. Mm-hmm. And he had an amount of money that he wanted to make a year. At the time was like $100,000 or something. Mm-hmm. And that was it. And he just was like, anything that matched that energy of those things, he said yes to.
Yep.
And I love that because it's so simple, and we think like, oh, we got to figure out like what exact job do we
have our vision board.
Yeah. All of that. But it's like, even if you have 3 or 4 things that are really important to you, and I think mine would be very similar. Mm-hmm. And you start to ask for those energies to show up in your life, and even if it doesn't make sense logically, but it matches that energy, then you say yes, and you see what happens.
Yep. Yeah.
And if it doesn't, even if it does make sense, like if it doesn't match that energy, you say no.
Yeah.
And you see what happens.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah. It's so cool, like having these tools and being willing to play with things and have the simplicity of it all, really. Like it can be so easy. Like, you know, when someone says to you, what do you want your life to be like in 5 years? In this reality, it's like, oh my God, I need to know, you know, like I said, that vision board thing where you've basically got a picture of every last thing. But when it's this space of waking up every day and going, okay, so I want to create a life. Well, for me, it's like, I just want to create a life that's a gift to this world. And I always like had this thing of like, well, what do I want to create in this world? Like when I die, what will my legacy be? And it was always so heavy for me because, you know, there's so many brilliant people in the world, right? Like you watch like people talk about every day, you know, millions times over, people are doing these amazing things. And I'm like, here I am, little old Sarah sitting on my computer. I was like, I'm not Mozart, I'm not fucking Picasso, but, you know, even like the modern version of those people. But I was like, okay, so what if like for me, it could be this thing of like, when I create my life, I just want it to be a gift to the world. And that could be anything. It takes all of the parameters off it. It takes all of the significance, and just, it's an energy that I follow every day.
And it could be anything you're doing that creates that energy with one person or an animal or a plant or yourself. It's like,
So maybe like just let's be real bad and run a clearing here. So like everywhere that you guys that are listening have not acknowledged, claim, don't acknowledge the gift you are to the world and how those small things and what you contribute to in the world, that is not, you know, the biggest gift and everything that this world desires and requires right now. Can we destroy and uncreate it all?
Yes.
Right, wrong, good, bad, pub, poc, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. Because I work, we do a lot of behind the scenes stuff for Access, and we both have facilitation businesses, so we're in the front, in the spotlight every now and again as well. But like, what are you doing behind the scenes that is contributing to everything that's in front of the scenes and in the main light, whatever industry, whatever that looks like, that it's your contribution to the stuff behind the scenes that's creating at least as big, if not a bigger difference than the people that are in the spotlight or the limelight, or the people that are getting the credit in a way, which we know isn't, like, it's bullshit anyway. They don't necessarily desire to have the credit, but a lot of the time someone's recognised for something, but it's those people behind the scenes, right, that are contributing at least as much, if not more, to the change being available for people.
Even in family dynamics.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Like, you could be not the one making the money, but you're creating the ease at home that allows the other person to create the money, and just acknowledging you, even if no one else is willing to or sees you, it can make a huge difference. And you just start to... Yesterday, I bought a very pretty bottle of wine. It was like had a rose on the bottom, and I was like, I'm just gonna celebrate me, like, just for me. I got it for me, and I'm like, I love the bottle, and it's all glass, like the cap, the thing. What do you call that? Anyway,
cork thing?
Cork. It's not a cork. It's glass.
Nice.
And the bottom, I'll have to show you. And I was just like, I told my husband, I'm like, I'm just celebrating me. I'm like, I've been working really hard, and I'm just gonna have, like, I just acknowledged myself, and no one else had to.
Yep.
Just for me.
Yeah, and that's so cool. I just myself on the way here pulled into we've got like an Ugg boot shop, which is very Australian. It's like this particular type of lamb's wool we use to make very cozy slippers here. But they also do, yes, you have yours on. I had mine on until I left the house. They're basically the best thing ever.
Yeah.
If you're ever in a cold area, you need to have a pair of these.
Yeah.
But they also do big pieces. So I went and bought myself this double length lamb's wool thing to lay over my office chair that I sit on, because I'm like, I sit in this chair for anywhere from 2 to 15 hours a day. Like, how can we also like do that?
Comfy.
And honoring ourselves and our bodies as well, and adorning ourselves with things that create more. So like, that thing of like buying yourself this beautiful bottle of wine, like adorning your body and you with the beauty and because it's what we all deserve in a way. Like, and it could be the little things again, like, or it could be the big things too. So awesome. So how do people find you, Lauren?
Well, I've got a new thing now. It's not that new, but it's called the Non-Mom Mom.
I love it.
Because I'm just not your typical mom.
Nope.
So you can find me at the nonmommom.com.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yay.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you so much. This was awesome. And I'm so glad that we ended up doing it in your office in Coolum Beach.
Yeah.
All the way from Vienna to here.
I know. Yay.
Cool. Thank you for listening, guys. See you on the next episode.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Consciousness Road Trip podcast. If you'd like to find more of my podcast or more information, you can head to my website, sarahwatt.com.au/road trip or sarahwatt.podbean.com. See you on the next episode.